Okay, so here we are till 10:30, learning how to adapt your sales process for a recession. So I thought I would start off with a little bit about me because I don't think I've met any of you before. So a little bit about me and why am I qualified to be sat here talking to you about sales in recession is a good question you might ask. So my background is actually in corporate organisations. So I spent the first large portion of my career being an alcoholic. No, I didn't. Working for Diageo with all these lovely, lovely brands. Absolutely fantastic organisation. So very branded, sales and marketing led organisation, and the #1 spirits business globally. I then moved on to GE Capital, which was a completely contrasting organisation. That was an organisation very much driven by risk management, compliance, process, all the good guts of the business managed incredibly well in what was at the time one of the biggest behemoths of an organisation globally. And then the last 9 years of my corporate career was with PepsiCo in the UK. Well, first in the UK and then across Europe. So PepsiCo has fabulous brands of Walker's Crisps, Tropicana juices, Quaker Oats, etc., and of course the Pepsi brands. So again, back into my branded sales-led organisation. So that's all great. And then I was very much attracted to swap that corporate life for working for SMEs, actually on the basis of a flight to Turkey, sat next to an architect, owner of an architect practice, but that's another story. But what I learned through that flight was actually the nimbleness of the SME organisations, their ability to change, to adapt, and also the impact that having a broader business knowledge than their particular expertise, which is typically what SME owners run on, is a knowledge of what they do, and by adding in that broader business knowledge really could have a fantastic positive impact on that business. And so I've been with Action Coach for the last 4.5 years, supporting SME businesses around Buckinghamshire to grow, essentially, to put together my business knowledge with their functional expertise, creating the ability to grow much faster. So, oh, there we go. That was me presenting at a Bucks Business First event. But what I want to do this morning, so my goals this morning are to be your educator and your coach. So yes, I'm going to share some tips and some tools and help you think differently. As your coach, I might prod and poke a bit, might feel a bit uncomfortable. But hey, without getting out of our comfort zone, we don't grow. So if I have that permission, I will, that is my style. But by the end, I want to make sure you're equipped with at least 3 strategies to improve your business and improve your sales in this challenging environment that we're getting into. So with that goal in mind, and I hope that works for you to end up with that kind of output. Can I see some nods? Is that going to work? Yeah, I'm looking at you on the video here as well as trying to look at the camera. Let's get that reaction. So what I want you to do is, during this, I hope you've all got pen and paper ready to make lots of notes. So writing notes really helps us learn. It helps us stay in our brain. So write notes, write bullet points, circle things, star things, you know, really get creative with those notes. And then you've got them for you, and come next week, you'll have a chance of remembering what we talked about. So lots of notes, that's during it. At the end, I'm going to challenge you to then look through those notes, that's why you'll need them, to find what are the 3 things you're actually going to do. What are you going to do? Because you're investing an hour and a half of your time here this morning with us, and I want to make that a real positive investment for you. And how we'll do that is make sure you're taking away something that you're going to do. So star things, or get another coloured pen to highlight things as you go along, thinking, yeah, that's something I want to do. And then lastly, because I'm determined to make sure this is value for money for you, I mentioned to a number of you on our little call beforehand, what we'll do is we'll catch up afterwards individually and work through exactly how you're going to put these strategies into practice. And that's It's a pro bono gifted call, and I'll tell you how to book that at the end. So that's my aim. You've got 3 strategies, great value for your time. Does that sound like a plan? Thumbs up. Good. Excellent. So let's crack on. So, woo, I'm a bit heavy on my clicker here. I don't know what I'm doing. Going to get you dizzy. Right. This is the visual I want to land on. So is this looking familiar to anybody? This is 2020, the year that was. We started pretty good. A lot of businesses had a pretty good start to 2020. Then COVID arrived. Right, oops. Down we go. That steep curve into lockdown, everything locked down pretty much. Well, not everybody. Some people thrived, depending on what you were doing. Some people had the opportunity of their lives. If you were switched into production of sanitizer or online shopping, you had a fantastic time. But a lot of people were locked down and business kind of ground to a halt. So we're down there in the survive phase, our blue survive phase. And then we've been gradually easing and unlocking. And this is where we're starting to see some differentiation. I've been doing a stack of webinars during this time, and really interesting to see the different mindsets. You know, there were those companies who had to hibernate, but actually, in fact, the business owners went into hibernation. Kind of brains got switched off, and they kind of hid, to be honest. Others have been fighting through this, pivoting their business, looking at how we can do that. How can we do that? I'm going to use this time. I'm going to, okay, we can't do any sales, but I'm going to invest in zooming up my website, my SEO, or whatever it is. So that's where we started to see this differentiation of path, how we're going to come out of this. And now I think we're very much in this drive phase, you know, pushing hard. This is where it's all out. This is the opportunity. And this is where we're going to see people falling by the wayside. So if you're not on it, you're going to be, there's no room for complacency at the moment. You've got to be on it, pushing it, and making sure you're the one who's out there. You're the one who's being seen. You're adapting, you're resonating. So we're in this drive phase, which, as you can see, is very much determining which track we're on. Now we want to avoid that pink track at the bottom, which is the cash flow challenges, grinding down slowly into closure. Not a good line to be on. We want to be, want to be shooting for that red line at the top where we've got some buoyant trading, but at least we're tough trading, we're fighting it out, and we're getting into the thrive zone with some degree of healthy numbers there. So I just thought I'd show that to, I think it's a very helpful picture to think about where we've been and where we're going. So onwards and upwards. We have what we call the formula for success, which I'll put up in full. Okay, so there's this funny little equation we use. Be times do times have. Definitely something to be writing down on your notes. So what do we mean by this? What I'm suggesting here is the track that you end up on. Are you in that healthy profits? Are you in that tough trading? Or are you on that horrible decline into closure? It's going to be a result of what you're doing and how you're being, which is going to result in the business results you end up having. So in order to be really effective, it's a combination of what we do, the actions that we take, the energy, primarily the actions we take and the things we're doing to drive the business forwards. But that on its own, if we're doing loads and loads of actions, but we're not doing it with the right tone, think about the being, we're not doing it with the right mindset, we haven't got the right skills behind us when we're doing that, that doing is not going to be effective. So if we think about it, it's a good bit of mathematical algorithm here. So if we have a load of doing, it tends to happen more this way around than the other way. But if we've got a load of doing, we've got, say, 5 out of 10 doing happening, but we're not focusing on our being, we've got no being, we're not thinking about how we're doing it. What's 0 times 5? It's 0, yeah? Anything times 0 is 0. We learned that at junior school. So if we haven't got any being going on, we're not thinking about how we're doing it and how the tone and the way we're coming across, you're not going to have the results you deserve. Equally, we can't sit there in some kind of Zen garden doing 100% being and not actually take any action, because that's zero on your doing. If you do a little bit of both, if we do 2 level of being and 2 level of doing, what are we going to end up? We're going to end up with 4 level of having. If we go for it and we do 10, we go full out on how we're being very mindful, we're making sure our tone's right, being super proactive, and we're doing all the right sensible actions, using the learning from the being and putting it into practice in our doing. So we've got 10 out of 10 on both. We're going to have 100 having. It just multiplies up. It also works in reverse. So if you haven't got what you think you deserve in terms of, and this works at home as well as at work, if you haven't got the results you want to have, work it backwards. Do you need to do more doing or more being? And you'll get a sense from that. So it's a really simple equation, but it's quite deep, and it's quite an honest one. When you ask it backwards, you'll find out what's going on or not going on. So whenever I'm doing any kind of coaching, trainings, webinar, we do a bit of doing and we do a bit of being as well. And I always start off with the being. So that's the first bit of being for you to think through that. And then next off, what I want to share with you is our formula for change, because this is also super relevant for a sales environment. So here's our formula. Got that, everybody? Make sense? No, it's a load of silly letters. So let me explain this for you. So what we're looking at here is D for dissatisfaction times vision. So if we want to create any change in ourselves or with others, you're leading a change at work, and I see sales as a change. If you're going to make a sale, you're asking someone to change. They're either changing from who they bought it from before to they're buying it from you, or they're going to change from not purchasing it at all to purchasing it from you. Either which way, that's a change. Would you agree? Because they're going from not buying from you to buying from you. That has to be a change. Or indeed, if you're upselling, they're buying from a cheaper thing to a more expensive thing. Again, it's a change. So what we do is we want to raise their dissatisfaction with their current situation or their current provider or the current service. Either that whole area, the more energy, think of this as charging a battery for change. We've got to put the energy into it, and that energy comes from, do you know, I was just telling Maxine, we finally redecorated our spare room, having lived in the house for 10 years. Why? Because I had to sit in it for 2 weeks in lockdown, and it was so dark and depressing. It was absolutely horrible. No, when it was my son's bedroom, I wasn't that bothered about it. When I was in it, I was like, this is really grim. So I felt really bad for him, actually, when it used to be his bedroom. Anyhow, my level of dissatisfaction was absolutely huge. I was like, I'm not going into another lockdown in that flipping spare room. It's now a different colour, I'm pleased to say. Dissatisfaction went up hugely. The other thing we need is to boost the dissatisfaction is vision for the future. How good is that future going to be like with your product or service in place, with the new change having happened? So we need to help your prospects see how things can be, how easy it can be, how simple it can be, how much stress it saves, all the different elements. How can we build that vision and make it as attractive as possible? So on the one hand, we're building dissatisfaction with the current, with what's going on at the minute, and we're building vision for the future. And both of those, the higher, there's a multiplication sign there, the higher both of those go, the higher the sum of that energy, if you like, for change becomes. Then we need F. F is for first steps. So imagine we've got all this energy in this battery. Is a battery any use on its own? No, it needs to be plugged into something to make a change, yeah? So think of our first step as plugging it in. What's the first step someone could take towards making that change? Now, that first step might be meeting with you. It might be doing a quick assessment. It might be having a look round. It might, we want to make it as easy as possible to make that first step when you've got the energy high. And those three things, D times V plus a very clear first step, needs to be greater than someone's resistance to change. Human beings are naturally resistant to change. We like our comfort zones. We like knowing what we're doing. We like what is the existing situation. It's known to us. Any change takes us a little bit into the unknown. So we've got to overcome that resistance to change. So again, it's a very honest formula. It works backwards. If you're not getting the sales you want to get, then one of those three things isn't strong enough. You haven't created enough dissatisfaction with the current, you haven't got enough vision for how it's going to be with you, or there isn't a clear first step. I'm going to stop there and ask for any questions. So if you want to unmute yourself and just shout out a question, that's absolutely fine. I haven't befuddled you yet. This is good. Excellent. So what we're going to do now, what was this whole webinar was marketed about how we do this in these recessionary challenging times. So there's a little adaptation now. That's the normal formula. Our superpower recession one has got a U. What else do we need? What are you finding? What are you finding as you do sales at the moment? A lot of people I talk to are finding it's getting slower. Anybody finding that? It's taking longer to get someone around to the point of deciding to buy, or getting a bit stodgy. So U is for urgency. Whoops. So we need to add in urgency. So through your sales process, as you're having your conversations, you also need to build in some sense of urgency. They need it now. The benefits will help them now. The sooner they get there, the better. So think about how you can build in urgency as you go through your sales process. Because the more urgency we've got, the more likely you are to close. Again, back to our battery analogy, we've got it all fired up. We've got that dissatisfaction and vision pumped up in the battery. We've plugged it in with a first step. If we don't make a decision now, all that energy dissipates. Who gets that? I'll come back to you in a week. And what happens when they come back to you in a week? You've got to wind up the battery again. You've got to build that dissatisfaction and vision again because they've lost energy for this change. So the longer that decision hangs out, the more you've got to keep going back and doing that. So let's build some urgency in. Very important at the moment. Good. Right. Oh, not doing too bad on schedule. Right. So when I'm working with businesses, typically we're working towards a goal of creating a business. Now you're going to say, I've got a business. Well, not our definition of a business. Our definition of a business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works so you, the business owner, don't have to. It can work without you stuck in the business. Now, often when I start working with businesses, the business owner is totally immersed in the business. The knowledge is absolutely contained in their head. And it's very difficult. If they were not to be there, the whole thing would crumble. So what we're looking to do is to work all areas of business so that you don't have to. And I want to give you a quick, literally 2-minute tour of our structure for building that kind of business, because then it'll give you the context for where sales sits. So to begin with, we want to make sure we're building a business off a very firm foundation. You know, you wouldn't build your house on sand. We don't want to build your business on sand. So we start with the mastery level at the foundation level. And this is where we're getting order and control into your business. We're getting clarity about what are you there to do as a business? Where are you going? What's the direction of the business, the vision, the mission? Are you clear about your financials? Are they in good order? Have you got your time mastery? Are you managing your time really efficiently so you've got the time to work on the business and drive it forwards? And finally, have you got some good, solid delivery of your product or service that is repeatable and consistently? So we've got a good product that we're then going to build the business from. When we've got those 4 areas in place, we're able to step up to niche. And this is where we're really expanding the business through the sales and the marketing and developing consistent, predictable cash flow. Who'd like some predictable cash flow? Does that sound good? Some predictable profits and cash flow? Yes! So how do we do that? Well, through a lot of trial and error, testing and measuring, and consistent work. So this is our sales and marketing happens in here. And this is where we're going to come back and spend the rest of our webinar. But at the point where we come out of our predictable cash flow niche level, we know that if we invest, say, 500 quid in marketing and we get £1,000 back in profit, how many times are you going to reinvest that £500? You're going to do it as much and as quickly as you can possibly cycle it round, because every time you invest it, you get £500 back in absolute profit above that. So when we've got that, we want to move up to leverage. Now, leverage layer is our efficiency layer. We're putting in processes, checklists, we're systemizing, automating, driving efficiency throughout the whole business. And we're doing it at that level because now we know how it all works. We know how to do the sales and marketing so it works. We know how to get the product consistently out. So when we've done all of that, finding out how it all works for us, we can now systemize it, knowing that we're systemizing something that's got life and it's going to stay that way. When we've got the leverage in place, that is the best time to actually then expand the team. Now, why is that? That's because you've actually determined what all the jobs are, how to do the jobs, what's the best way of getting those jobs done. And because now your team members need to come in and follow that process, follow the systems you've put in place, use the technology you've put in place, you actually can have a slightly lower capability because there's a lot of capability is in the process and system you've put in there. And you can choose more on attitude and energy and those kind of things, which actually give you greater performance, which means you can widen the pool that you're looking for, get top talent. And when they come in, they're coming in and getting up to speed so much quicker because you know exactly what they need to do. They've got the right skills because you knew what they were and you went and found them. So that's why we delay going big on team till this point. But many businesses need team way before. You're not going to run any kind of restaurant or cafe with one person, you know? So a number of this has to be flexible, the model. But when we've got the team in place, you, the business owner, who at the moment might be wearing multiple hats, your head of sales, head of marketing, head of finance, head of operations, all of those hats are worn by business owners typically at some point, and then they release them to the team as they bring them on board. And ultimately, when you put a general manager in place, you end up with a business that works without you. You can then get synergies from that by taking this one well-oiled machine that you've got and then replicating that through licensing it or franchising it or opening another one in a different geography, and multiply the results that you get. But the hard work happens in the mastery, niche, leverage, and team layers. So that's a very quick whiz around everything that needs to be in place to be running a successful, sustainable business that can work without you. But we're now going to zoom into niche because that's where we are today. So lots of definitions of a niche. People typically say things like it's being somewhere different, something that your competitors don't offer, something special. We then add an edge on that definition. Our definition of a niche is where you take yourself out of price competition. Quick hands up, who currently feels they're in price competition? They're competing on price with other people. Yeah? So we want to take ourselves out of that. Would that feel good, that you're not competing on price? Because every time you compete on price, you're in this ever decreasing circle because you go down, they go down, you go down. It's not a healthy place to be. But how do you do that? You're going to go, yeah, Helen, right. Have you seen the environment out there? Yes, I have. So what's the trick to unlocking that? The trick to unlocking that is to be or do something different. Yes, that's what you'd all expect from the word niche. The next bit is the important bit. That's worth paying more for. You have got to have something about you that is worth paying more for, because it's so useful to me in today's environment. That is really important. So you've got to bring a relevance to today. Who paid more for loo paper 4 or 5 months ago than maybe they used to? Anybody do that? Anybody went to the corner shop and went, God, the loo paper, let me grab it? Yes, because at that point in time, it wouldn't have mattered what you were going to pay, to be quite frank. You needed to make sure you got the supplies in. Anybody, I went out, as a opening our office and started to have a few clients actually in the office, socially distanced now, went out to get my sanitizer. My God, sanitizer's expensive for a bottle. Because we need it, it's highly relevant. Services, and this is where Camilla with your wedding service, I'm thinking as those weddings, so Camilla does wedding planning, and when we were talking before, I was thinking, you know, all of this year's weddings shoved into next year as well as next year. I imagine there's going to be a huge scarcity for some elements that you need. So suddenly, whilst I might have got away with not using a wedding planner, if you've raised my I've now got clarity about the dissatisfaction factors, because it hadn't occurred to me as a bride to be that it's going to be really difficult because only so many cake makers and they're going to get fully booked. Now I might need somebody who's going to have the angle on getting to the people before everyone else does. That is going to be worth paying more for, because I don't know the industry. I only get married once. A wedding planner knows it all. That is suddenly really relevant, I think, in today's environment. And if we think about it properly, we can work out for us, how can we, sometimes it's a question of educating our clients, because it is relevant today, but they just might not realize it. And sometimes it might be looking at our business and going, actually, is there a pivot here that I can make it worth paying more for in today's environment? Who's got a bit of thinking to do? There's a really great point here to leverage this. So when we've got that positioning, we're taking ourselves out of price positioning. I want to show you the numbers that work your business, and then we're going to see why sales is so critical. So most businesses, and we'll have a quick show of hands here, know how many customers got. Hands up if you know how many customers you've got. Bit fuzzy, okay. Who knows your revenue? Your monthly revenue? How much goes into the bank each month? We know the revenue. Most people know revenue. Do you know your profit? Monthly profit? Have a look on your QuickBooks or your Xero or whatever. Yeah, okay. So those are numbers typically people know. They're interesting numbers, but I see those as outcomes. They're an outcome of far more interesting numbers. So how many customers you've got is an outcome of how many leads your marketing got in and how many of those leads your sales process converted. So it's really important to know how many leads you're getting in through your marketing and how many of those leads you're converting. Because if you're sitting there going, I want more customers, yeah, you want more customers. We would all like more customers. But we need to know, do you need to improve your marketing or do you need to improve your sales? If you're getting loads of leads in, but you're not converting them, there's no point in spending more money on marketing. That's wasted money. You need to improve your sales process. If actually you don't get many leads in, but the ones you get in, you convert, then fine, we know, yeah, go invest in marketing because you know you've got a good process for turning them into customers and paying customers. So really critical to know those two numbers, to know how to improve those customer numbers. Your revenue is an outcome of how many customers you've got, how many times they have a transaction with you in a year or a month, depending on how you like to work, and what's the average value of that transaction, of that sale in that same time period. And if you times how many customers you've got by the average number of transactions they have with you each year or month, and the average amount they spend per transaction each month or year, that will mathematically give you your revenue. Is that useful to know? That gives you the ability to think your number of transactions, that's how many times they're coming back to you, that repeat business level, that cross-sell to get different transactions going. On your average sale, that's your upsell, you're putting your prices up. How can you increase the value of each sale? So now you've got two levers to use to increase that revenue from your existing customers. Does that sound helpful? And then finally, our profit is an outcome of our profit margin. So what's the relationship between our costs and our revenue? So we can either put our revenue up or our costs down. That's going to increase our margin and increase our profit. So those blue lines are the numbers I'm really interested in, because those are the ones that are going to drive difference in your business. Clear so far? So I'm going to illustrate that now with some numbers. So we're going to take an example, hypothetical business. Anybody got a dog here? Anybody have a dog? Matthew, I know you've got dogs. We talked dogs, didn't we? So, right. So we're going to have an example of a dog kennels. And those of you who are really feeling bright this morning on a Tuesday morning are going to work out why we're doing a dog's kennels, because we're starting with the number of leads. Oh, dreadful joke, Helen. Yes, sorry. So anyhow, in our hypothetical dog kennels, we've got 4,000 leads coming in per month. They're obviously doing a lot of marketing. They're running a conversion rate of 25%, which means they have got, each year, they have 1,000 customers. Are we good with this maths? 4,000 times 25%, we've got 1,000 customers. On average, they have 2 transactions per customer. So of those 1,000 customers, they typically send their dog to the kennels twice a year. The average sale of each of those transactions is £100. And if you've got a pet at all, you'll know that's not a week's holiday. That must be a long weekend, because you don't get much for 100 quid at a kennels, in my experience. So that gives them a revenue of £1,000 times 2 transactions times £100 per transaction. That's going to give you £200,000 revenue. Are we with me? They've got a profit margin of 25%, which means their profits for the year are 50,000. Okay, kept the numbers pretty round to make this maths as simple as possible. So that's how the model works. But let's have a play with it now. So what we're going to do is play with each number by 10% and work it hard as we would in our business. Now I'm going to do this quite quickly because I want to get into sales, but don't worry, because when we do our gifted coaching session, we can work these numbers for your business. So make notes, but I'll come back and we'll work these out for your business so you know exactly where you're at. But if we look at the kennels, so we've got 4,000 leads, we want to increase them by 10%. So what could we do? Well, we could start a collaboration, maybe with the local vets, get some flyers out. They put a flyer about our kennels in every paper bag with the medicine for the dogs. We could find the Facebook group of pubs that love dogs locally. Anywhere where we can find dog owners congregating, we're going to do a bit of marketing. If we did a couple of those things, could you imagine we can increase across the year, we could get 400 extra people interested in, or not buying, interested in our kennels and knowing about our kennels. Not going to be too difficult. We're next going to look at our conversion rate. How can we convert more of those leads? Well, have they got a sales process? Now, it's a bit like looking at children's nurseries or dog kennels. It seems to be the same. You get a little tour round as the mum of the dog. They show you how it's going to be looked after, where they go for exercise, what the kennels look like. Have they got that tour done by the best employee there who can show it off to the best? Are they giving the right patter at the right time? Are they selling the virtues of this kennels? If we got that really on message and honed, I'm sure we could increase the conversion rate 10%, not adding 10%, we're not going to 35%, we're just going to increase it by 10%, so increase it by 2.5%, so it now becomes 27.5% conversion rate. Simple maths, times that by that, we have now got 210 customers. We haven't done anything radically different. We've done a bit of marketing at the vets and we've improved our sales process. Now we want to look at the number of transactions. So how are we going to get more transactions per client? Well, maybe we can do doggy daycare options so that when they go to Wimbledon for the day or they go Christmas shopping, the dog can come in instead of being left on its own. That's an extra transaction, yeah? So we're not going to do, we're just at 10%, so only 2.2. So not everybody's going to take that up. Maybe 10% of them will, and we get to 2.2. Average sale, well, that's the easiest one. When did the last put the prices up? When did any of you last put your prices up? This year, last year, the year before? Prior to that? Oh, so that's usually a quick one. Just put, anybody, when did petrol last go up? Oh, well, actually it's been going down, bad example. But most things, your electricity, etc., things have a tendency to go up, and yet small business owners have a tendency not to put their prices up. Don't get that. So we could put the prices up. We could average value sale, so much fun at the kennels. We can do added services. We can add in a grooming session. We could add in a training session. We could add in extra treats, whatever it is, and get it up by 10% to 110. Now, we've done 4 little increases of 10%, and what have we got now? Nearly an extra 100,000 revenue. This is all mathematically correct. I haven't got some magician kind of thing going on here. Last one to play with, profit margins. Now, if we put our prices up, that naturally increases your profit margin. If we've got more volume going through without adding to the cost base, we again naturally get more profit. But we can also look at those costs. When did you last renegotiate some of your key suppliers? Is there an opportunity there? So we want to look at those costs. We have a 10% cost challenge, go through all your costs. How could you get some cost out of that? So let's assume we've done the cost challenge, we've put the prices up a bit, and we've got more volume. We know we have because we've done the work at the top of this. So we can put our profit margin up 2.5%, sorry, 10%, which is an additional 2.5%, 27.5% now. What does that do to our profits? We've got 30,000 extra profit on what was 50,000. That's a 61% increase if you do 5 lots of 10% because of the compound interest, because each 10% is multiplied by the one coming after it. So lots of smaller changes throughout this add up to that 61% increase in profit. Who'd like a 61 increase in profit? Kind of be helpful at this time, yeah? So let's bring it back to sales. So conversion rate is pure sales. That is our sales lever. So the better we get at sales, the better our conversion rate is. But it doesn't end there. Because the number of transactions, this is selling to existing customers. Yeah? This is getting them to purchase again, one more time within the time period you're looking at. Get another order in. It doesn't stop there. Average value sale, that's your upsell, cross-sell, upsell opportunity. Getting more in each transaction, bulk sale, etc. That again is sales skills. And actually, because you've got the volume going through, you then benefit from the natural mathematical benefit of profit margin because you've got bigger revenue divided by your costs. So it helps your profit margin too indirectly. Can we see that getting our sales process adapted and working in today's environment is somewhat critical? It's going to fundamentally make or break. And think back to that first slide where we had the angle of that growth curve, that this is going to be the key determinant of that. So let's look at the sales stuff now. As we go into sales, you all know sales is all about that the purpose of our sales process, the outcomes we need to do, we need to create people who know us. We're doing the know, like, and trust bit here. People need to get to know you. They need to get to know of you. If they don't know of you, they clearly can't buy from you. We actually only buy from people we like. So they have to get to a point of liking you. And fundamentally, we only buy from people we trust. And that last one is absolutely key at the moment, because at the moment, people are starting from a place of fear, worry, and anxiousness. So their need for trust is right up. So they've got to trust. This is investments now are so much more precious because they're concerned about what the future holds. Therefore, any investment, and most sales are an investment, let's face it, any investment is very carefully thought through, and they need to be very confident it's the right thing to do and it's going to bring them benefit. So you've got to create the trust that you're bringing benefit to them. How can we increase trust at the moment? So trust, for me, trust always increases with the stronger the relationship. And how do we build relationship? We build relationship through communication. Our strongest lever for communication is when we can have, yes, we've got the words, yes, we've got the tone of voice, but most importantly, we've got the body language as well. So communication, ideally in person, builds the best trust. Things are tricky at the minute, but things are beginning to get, face-to-face, in person is starting to come back in socially distanced ways. The other way, though, is to make full use of Zoom as we are today. Being able to see people face to face on a screen where you can see the body language, that really helps to build the trust. So where you can, and we don't want to get zoomed out because that's exhausting, we all know that already. So some calls are going to be on the phone, but when you've got a critical point in your sales process, absolutely get that in person or on a Zoom if you possibly can. And know that a written word on its own, of all the, only gets 7% of communication across. There's so much space for misunderstanding when you send an email, because there's no tone to help the understanding. Email's absolutely lethal. So be very mindful when you're doing that, and reread it and make sure there's no way it could be misread. As well as seeing you face to face, either on Zoom or in real time, testimonials, video testimonials, really powerful. They can't be faked. Less so, a testimonial. The other thing people really, the word of others, social proof, and that's not testimonials written up on your website, because quite frankly, that could be anything. Social proof is other people independently saying how great you and your business are. That means it has to be on Trustpilot, Facebook, Google reviews, Facebook reviews. If you've got an industry one, Check a Trade, whatever it is, independent, not the ones that you put up on. And it's nice to see them on the website, but anybody could write that. Again, if there's a video of your client with their name, if somebody's suspicious, they can check the name on LinkedIn, see the photo, realize it is that person. They're going to be really reassured. It's checkable. So have testimonials that are totally believable, and that will help build trust. The other way to help build trust is through having guarantees. Anybody have a guarantee at the moment for their service? Point of having guarantee is to overcome the fears that people have in buying from you. It doesn't have to be a financial guarantee. It might be a service guarantee. But knowing what you absolutely deliver, and you've got processes that mean you absolutely deliver it, then put some weight behind it and guarantee it. Because that will overcome their fears. So, anybody got some changes to make so they do really strong know, like, and trust? Think about how you can strengthen that. Really powerful. So, and then with all sales, it's absolutely critical to measure, test and measure. All marketing, sales, everything in our niche layer is about testing and measuring, because we don't know if it's going to work and how it's working unless we've got some numbers. So we need to be recording leads in, we need to be recording things through our sales process. So that assumes two things. One, you have a sales process. Dare I ask, who's got a sales process? Hands up if you have a sales process you follow. Good. So there is a sales process in place. Hands up if we're actually tracking people through that sales process. Okay, some of that happening. So we need a process and we need to be measuring it. Some of you have got both of those bits of work to do. So what does this process need to look like? Here's my overview of a sales process. We start with a marketing funnel, and I'm not really touching on marketing today, today's sales. But we've got leads coming in through our marketing activities. The marketing activities going out to suspects, people who may want our product or service, but we really don't know at this point. Marketing funnel, generating leads. So our first major conversion rate is how many leads we get in and how many of those become paying customers at the end. That's our macro conversion rate. But that is actually built up of a whole series of mini steps, because actually we're wanting to convert people each step of the way along our process. So here's our hypothetical sales process coming along here. So we all have to have some kind of initial contact, yeah? Maybe you get an inquiry form in from your website, or there's a phone call that comes in. There's something that comes in where the suspect becomes a prospect. We know they're interested in our product or service. They're interested in it kind of now-ish, and it's our job to convert them into a lead and then into a sale. So we've got some kind of initial contact happening. We need to know how many those are. And then our aim at that step, whatever we do with that initial contact, maybe it's an email back, maybe it's a phone call back. The point of that is not to sell, it's just to get them to the next step in our process. Typically then, there's some kind of information gathering process. You might have a briefing meeting, you might have a questionnaire to fill in. Somehow, typically most things we sell, we need to know some information about the needs of this lead. So we have our information gathering process. Again, we need to know how many people went from the initial contact to then the information gathering process. Then you might have an initial proposal. It's roughly this or it's roughly that. Maybe you don't. And you might have these things in a different order. Every product and business has a different sales process. It needs to be very bespoke to your product and very bespoke to your target audience. So we're going to have some kind of initial proposal, and then that purpose is to get it to the next step. So maybe there's then a visit or a briefing. Some people have to go to see wherever something's happening, in which case you want to have that initial proposal because it cuts out the time wasters, and at least you know you're roughly in the right space for the budget. You go and do your visit briefing, and there'll be key steps you've got defined there as for what happens whilst you're there. There'll be key conversations that need to be happening there whilst you're face to face with them before you then send or give them a final proposal. And then obviously you're looking for a yes at the end of that proposal, and we've got a sale agreed. Now you'll notice there I'm calling that sale agreed as a shopper, not a customer. Anybody spot that? Why is it a shopper, not a customer? Because the shopper's bought once. You don't know if somebody loves your product or service or is even happy with it, typically until they come again, or maybe they refer you. That's when you know they liked it, because they've now experienced it, and then we can call them a customer. So that's our sales process overall. So when you said you've got a process, do you have this kind of a thing laid out? And a good process would have this. Each one of these steps is going to have a checklist or a script or a key messages, some key information that's sent out, maybe a video or a PDF about the business, the product. So that, and there might be some mini steps that help jump you across to the next stage. A little check-in phone call, maybe you send a postcard, little steps, little email. Check, you know, who checks ahead before they go and visit? You want to check that, yeah, they're still expecting you. So we need those little steps in there. Now, typically, the science says, on average, a sale takes, other than a sort of consumer good type of thing, a sale takes about 7 steps. So if you want to make a sale, you need to have about 7 of these things. What we're finding in a recession in the current environment is it's taking nearly 11. So we need to add in some extra steps to keep building confidence, building that relationship with your prospect. We need some more little steps in there to help them along. Maybe you need to send them a testimonial video. Maybe you need to send them a sample where you didn't before. Maybe you had to just think, where could you add in another touch or two to help them actually get to buying? People, it's slowing down partly because you've got extra steps to add in. But people are wanting a bit more information. So it's a bigger decision now because there's money at stake here that's really precious because we've got this uncertainty. So think about how you can build in confidence and build in a few extra steps there. By the way, your sales process also wants to cover the objections that you might be receiving before you get them at the end. Cover off your objections in your sales process. So they've got the answers. You can raise it. Some people find, but actually, objection dealt with. The other thing to think about is if you've pivoted your business, either or you need to. I mean, I often think of a business as you've got a product and it's matching, I'm waving my hands around here, so have a look at the camera. You have a product and that matches a certain target audience, then your level. As we get into more recessionary type times, maybe these people are dropping to a lower quality and a lower price point. So you might be thinking, oh, my market's just gone. Well, no, because now you need to target the one that was above you. That's now in line with you. But these are different people to these ones who've gone down there. Does that make sense? So who are you targeting? Who were you targeting? And who are you now targeting? Who's now in your affordability range? Who are the people who now in this environment are really going to appreciate your product? They might be different people because their world's changed. Now, if your target audience has changed, the probability is that your sales process will have to change because it's got to resonate with different people who might have different challenges, a different context they're working in. Equally, if you've switched your product, if your product has changed a bit, you've pivoted your product as we've gone through the last 6 months. Again, using the same old sales process for the old product with the old target audience is probably not going to be your best way of selling. You need to look, okay, I'm now going to be offering this slightly adapted version. How do I tweak my sales process? So when you've got a process, make sure it's up to date with who you're targeting and what you're targeting them with. So it all matches and is in line and works. Who needs to do a quick refresh of their sales process now and check it's all matching target audience and product? So now we need to measure it to see if it's working. Yeah, we've tweaked it a bit. Now we need to know, is it working? So what I want you then to start thinking about is, for those of you who weren't confidently putting your hand up about measuring it, we need to start measuring it. So then just turn your sales process into a spreadsheet like I've done here. So you've got your lead and then you're tracking the date when they go through each step of your sales process, because then you can see where they run out. Like lead B and lead C just dropped out after the initial proposal, yeah? So we want to look at what is it, what do we need to do differently to get that initial proposal across to getting a visit briefing in place in this example. Really powerful when you do this. I've done this, a couple of examples from clients who've done this. One was a video client. The guy did video productions for clients, relatively comprehensive, high end. And he was sending out the proposals and then not getting replies back, not getting acceptances. It kind of went into tumbleweed, into the ether. So I said, look, send me the proposal. I got this proposal. It was 4 to 5 pages long, so complex. There were links here, links there, bits here, bits there, different fonts. I lost the will to live. I was his coach trying to read this proposal. You know, I was like, who's got the energy to plow through this thing? He went, no, that's a good point. We shortened it right down at a page and a half, critical information in the right order. What happened? We got people past it, coming back to him. It was just too difficult to plow through this proposal. I had another one, did it with a children's nursery. They had 2 drop-off points. They found 2 points where they were losing people. First point was after the look-see visit. So when parents go and have a look around the nursery, they weren't coming back and sending their registration forms. So with honesty, the business owner said, you know what, I've just done a walk round. We need to spruce up. You know, it's not as impressive looking as it could do. So, you know, they fixed a few gates or a bit of paint here. They tarted it up a bit. But the really interesting thing we found was those people who did send their registration forms back didn't end up starting. So you've got a parent who's sent in an inquiry, they've read the literature, they've spent time, come and visited, they filled out a registration form, and they didn't accept the place. I said, that's really weird, really weird. Go investigate what's happening between them bringing this form, sending the form back in, and them starting. Well, you know what they found? They've got a very well-meaning, efficient administrator who decided she would batch process the registration forms as they came back in. So she had a little stack and she kept them there until the term before the child was due to start. So they could be in her batch waiting there for 6 months before confirming the place. Now, if any of you have had any kids in nursery, this, I certainly did, mega stressful time, getting them sorted out, and you don't hear from someone for 6 months, you assume you haven't got a place. Of course they're not going to buy. So we changed that process. It was a work of half an hour. Of when they come in, you'll confirm it straight back. What happened to their conversion rate? Straight up. Did the business owner have any idea about that logjam before we tracked it? No idea at all. No idea at all. So that's the beauty of tracking this kind of information. You find the holes in your process. You find which bit needs strengthening to keep them moving along. So now we've got a sales process in place and being tracked. Oop. And we're moving along. So another thing that's really changed is maybe not the right word, dialed up, really dialed up, is tone. Tone is everything at the moment in terms of your sales and marketing messages. Firstly, we need to be all about helping. We're helping, not selling. You're helping solve their issues, solve the problems they've got, very much from a helping point of view. Rattling through your benefits of your product is not working here. We need to educate them about it. This is going to build the trust far more than rattling through your benefit list. So educate them around the situation. Then you know, they tell you their needs. You educate them about the options. All very supportive, massively supportive focus. We need to be adding value to them. You need to add value and then be moving towards the closing. You've got to add value straight up first off, because that massively builds your trust. It needs to be a customer centric. I mean, it's obvious this, of course, yes, Helen, it's always customer centric, but even more so now, they've got to feel that you're looking out for them. It's all about them. Those questions need to be the questions that are helpful for them to think through, not questions that are helping you sell. So be really thoughtful around how you're positioning those questions, the tone of those questions, so that they're coming to that decision themselves. You know the adage, you know, what you say as the salesperson is not true. If the customer, the prospect says it, it is true. It's just how our brains work. If we think it's true, if someone else tells us it's not true. So we've got to get the questioning correct, but customer centric. we're going to need to ask more questions. It's this slower process. We need to extract those objections as we go. So get more information, build more dissatisfaction with questions, more vision with questions. Just more questions are going to be asked through this process. So get them planned out there. It is going to be a bit slower, so be prepared to take it slower. Don't rush them. We want to keep momentum, but if they feel pushed, the slight whiff of a push, they're going to be backing off. And then finally, keep in contact. Keep, you know, a no is not a no, it's a not now. And at the moment, there's so much going on. You know, if we would, we'd absolutely need to walk in the shoes of our prospects. People have still got team on furlough. They're working from home, not in the office. Stuff is more complex. It's more difficult to get done because you haven't got the right people. You haven't got the right kit, maybe. You haven't got the high Wi-Fi speed. It's a lot of effort running a business at the moment. So your thing that you're trying to, you know, that they want, and they know they want it, the fact they haven't come back to you is probably not that they don't want it or they've gone cold on you. It's probably there's just 10 other things that have jumped up on their priority list that they've got to deal with before they can get to it. You need to make it so easy for them to say yes, or to just pop in and say, look, I know, you know, we've just got to be thinking about what's happening in their world. Because they might be doing, there's a lot of people doing 2 jobs at the moment. They're doing their job and a team member's job because they're on furlough. So if we show understanding of that situation and make it easy for them. And anyhow, we know, you know, that the stats are something like 80% of sales happen on about the 7th contact. And yet many salespeople, and you're all salespeople, many salespeople give up after the first 1 or 2. And I know, you know what, the bit I hate the least is this follow-up, because you think, oh, I'm being a nuisance, etc. You're not. They're just not ready. You've just got to catch them at the right time when they're actually in the office with a 5 minutes of headspace. So just careful of your mind talk as well, but do keep in contact, keep going back in the right way. I'm just reminding them there, we've got lots of tools we can do that through: email, phone calls, LinkedIn, send them something in the post, lots of different ways just to keep that contact. I had someone approach me 2 weeks ago via LinkedIn inbound lead. We first connected on LinkedIn in 2017, so 3 years ago. We connected, I sent a message, he didn't reply. I then invited him to a free webinar about 18 months ago. He didn't reply. And then suddenly pops up, thanks for the messages, I need some help. Isn't that interesting? That's a 3-year burn to get there. So keep in touch. So when you've got your sales process and we've tweaked it for the right audience now, the right product, keep reviewing it. So here are some ways to keep improving and reviewing that sales to make sure it's working for you. So systemizing it, particularly at the moment, if we've got less people in the sales team, or there's one of you doing many jobs, what can you automate or systemize to help that be smoother? Trackers, we talked about the tracker through the steps, checklists to make sure you covered all those points. At each point in your sales process, there'll be key things you need to get across, key information you need to get from them, key information you need to give, key experience to have. Make sure you cover each one of those with a checklist. Use a CRM. There's some fabulous ones that are free. They don't need to cost you anything. That help keep your notes together, keep track of where people are at so you don't lose leads. And having scripts, you know, sometimes you ask a great question and it produces a brilliant answer and it's just a mind shift moment for your prospect. Write it down and then you can use it every time. get your questionnaires, your quotations, testimonials. I haven't got up actually, but having testimonials massively helpful. It's a helpful additional step to just drop in when we're going from 7 to 11 steps. So which of these have you got in place already? Where do we need to do it? And just keep reviewing them. Because as you see, you improve one step and you get them across to the next step in your process, you might find another hole where you're losing people. Anybody got 100% conversion rate? Not many, no. So there's always room for improvement, hey? So we've covered a lot there. Have you got lots of scribbled notes? Yeah, good. So as we wrap up, because I want to give time for questions as well. So this is where we get to the action stage. So Brad Sugar's the guy who actually founded Action Coach. But this is a very true saying here that he loves to say. Words can inspire, so hopefully I've created some inspiration. We've had some thought-provoking moments. I've got your brains thinking, maybe thinking about some things differently. But if these notes stay as notes on your notebook, not a lot's going to be different in your business. We've got to take that into action. You've got to do something with it for it to become beneficial to you and take you closer to those dreams that you've got for your job or for your business. So you need to take action. So what I want you to think through are, what are the top 3 learnings you've had from this webinar? Most importantly, what are the top 3 actions that you're going to take next week even as a result of what we've learned today? Now, if you're comfortable, so I want you to, we're going to sort of have a take breath here for a moment. Look through your notes now. I'm going to force you to do it now. And then I want you to type into the chat box, what are those 3 actions? Because you know what happens when you share an action? Your accountability to do it goes up. And when we have our call, I'm going to be going, so David, have you done this? Matthew, have you done this? So look at your notes. I'm going to shut up now for a minute. I want you to look through your notes and then just type very briefly into the chat box, what are you going to do? Great, it's starting to come in. Top 3 actions that are going to help your sales. This is the coach in me coming out now. So if you haven't got it in a chat box, who's got 3 starred, written, highlighted in their notebooks? Are you still reviewing? I'm looking. Lee, where are you at? I can't see. Got 3 highlighted? Yeah. Thereabouts. Oh, brilliant, Camilla, here they come. Check your template. Yes. Yeah. Adds value. Yeah. Something your competitors don't do. There's always something there. Brilliant. David, great. Right, Dave. Sorry, not David, John. There we go. Yes. Good, good, good. So, whilst we get those finalised, oops. So, I want to help you really make the most of this and take action. So, as I've said, we'll meet up on Zoom probably, and get together and work out those 5 ways for your business to see what opportunity you've got when you start working these levers, and giving it. And as we look at those levers, we'll find specific strategies that will help you move those numbers forward and build them into these actions you've got already from your sales. So we'll look at the numbers, we'll work out what strategies are going to help you improve most. So either myself or Barbara, my peer, will be in touch, and we'll get that in the diary. If there's a day that's better for you, day of the week that tends to be easier for you or not, then do pop that in the chat box. But I'm deadly serious about this. Is, you know, if you're serious about building your business and going forwards, I'm really serious about making sure you've got the key numbers that are going to help you get there, because it is life-changing for business when you start using these numbers properly. So with that, I think we've got 10 minutes to open up for any questions. So pop yourselves off mute, and shout out anything we've covered so far or anything we haven't that's popped up that you'd like to ask whilst we're here together this morning. Hey Camilla, have you got a question there?
Yeah, I was just also looking through my notes because I can't. So it was at the very beginning of your slides, and I think maybe it was when you were talking about the formula for dissatisfaction times vision, first steps, and
Yep.
making resistance. And then you mentioned about turning it round, but I was busy writing my notes that I missed that part of what you said, which was the most important part.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. So, yes. So if we worked it forward, and then what we find is if you're not making the sale effectively, if you're not overcoming that resistance to change, then you can reflect back on the dissatisfaction, the vision, and the first step, and the urgency which we added in. Which one of those needs strengthening? Okay. Because if you're not overcoming the resistance, one of those 4 elements isn't strong enough yet.
Right. Okay.
And then you can think, okay, have I really built clear dissatisfaction with the current situation for them, with their situation without my product in their lives? Have they got dissatisfaction with that? Yes, no. Have they got a clear vision of what it could be like when we are working together? Yes. Okay, so that's good. Okay, is there a clear first step? This is why call to actions are so important. If you don't put a call to action, people are left, what's the first step? Yeah. It's like if you go into a new, cafe you haven't visited before, especially at the moment, you're like, do I go to the table? Do I queue up? Am I on my menu on the phone, menu on the table? What's the process here? I need a first step to make it easy. So if the first step isn't blindingly obvious and dead simple, then make it more so. And then the final thing is, have you created urgency? Why do they need it now? Why do they need my service now? Why do they need my product now? What benefit is it going to give them having it sooner rather than later? So that's how we work it backwards. That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Good question. Good question. What other questions have we got? Any other questions? I've stunned you all into silence. Okay, well, oh no, Matthew, have you got a question? Unmute. Haha, good.
How you doing?
I'm good.
My question, it's not really a question, is the aviation industry, which I'm currently in, is dead on its heels at the moment, as everyone is probably aware.
Yeah.
Trying to build more emphasis on what we can actually offer, and with the amount of people that are furloughed as well, it's a very difficult time at the moment. I know we had a brief discussion last week with the way that I'm advertising the fact and publicising is a lot of LinkedIn and working on the hashtags. I don't know if everyone else in the group does a lot of hashtags, but I've noticed that finding the correct hashtags through LinkedIn helps grow your presence on social media as well. So I don't know. I'm just trying to help out as well as. It's not really a question. It's more of a help, because I've seen it grow. I mean, I've seen our presence on LinkedIn grow dramatically over lockdown.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that share. Brilliant. I think those people who are on LinkedIn are becoming much more active on LinkedIn. I think especially in the first half, I think when it was difficult, when you are and in your world, when there was very limited stuff you can do, when everybody was really locked down and there was time, that was a great place people were investing and finding out, etc. Industries that are now getting back on their feet, I think, are now spending a bit less time on LinkedIn, but I imagine the aviation is probably still very much there. So you can build up a good level of trust and information through that, through your posting and commenting, etc. You can really, are you doing videos on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so we'll currently do videos with our antibacterial ink and stain removing, which was during lockdown, which was given its testing results from Florida, which came back as antibacterial as well. So we've just promoting that, but with all of the aviation shows that have been cancelled, there was the only way to advertise the fact was our website and LinkedIn, really, to promote it.
Yeah. So and videos of your product, but also videos of you talking about the situations you see it, kind of becoming a bit of a sector guru on your particular part of it.
I haven't done any videos of myself. I don't know whether that would be beneficial or not. Maybe it might be to see the actual see someone personally discussing what it is, how it's affected, and so on and so forth. It's mainly products that we would take pictures of the tooling or the design work and then advertise the fact that we've got the presence to make bigger, better, and we're more of a lean, mean production.
Yeah, well, as humans, we're attracted to other humans. So products are logical, people are emotional. So having you talk about a product is going to be more interesting. If I was at a show, I'd be talking to you, I'd be seeing you, I'd be hearing your opinions about it. Verbally, I'd be seeing you. So can you capture that and do some little 2-minute videos on LinkedIn?
Yeah. I mean, we can do it. Obviously, you never want to take recordings of yourself, do you, all the time? But yeah, there's
Get over it.
Hey, I'm a public speaker as well, so I'm quite happily talk all day. It's some of the things that you've told me about in here, I can take away to my other side of my business, which I do outside of the aviation industry, is where I have a gin bar.
All right, gym bar.
Yes, I have a mobile gym bar, so I'll be taking some of this into that as well, that I haven't.
Yeah. Excellent. Good. Yeah, no, aviation is challenging, but I guess they do need maintenance and stuff to a certain extent, even if they're not flying, do they?
Well, they've cut down so much on the aircraft.
Yeah.
They can, because they're not flying complete, they can then take other parts from out of the aircraft and take donor parts. So manufacturing new is not fully at the moment.
No. Okay. Any other last questions before we finish? No, good. Well, it's been great having you here. Maxine, do you have any final wrap-up-y stuff?
Just unmuting myself there. No, really, just sort of fantastic, Helen. Thank you so much. It was really good. There's quite a few bits that I'm going to take away as well from what I've listened in on today. So thank you for that. No, just stay in touch, everyone. You know, and if there's any questions or anything you think of after this morning's event when we come off, you know, please do either let me know or send them through to Helen. Either I can pass them on to Helen, but we'll be sharing the slides, and we'll be putting the video up on the website as well, so you could always backtrack there. But those of you that have agreed to share details, I will share them on with Helen. But no, it was a great session, Helen. Thank you very much, and I hope everyone else has enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Well, great to be with you this morning, and yeah, speak soon. Take care. Have a great day.